The song is ending. I think that's my cue to say hello to everyone now officially and to say welcome to another case study webinar. As most of you know, this case study webinar is brought to you by the Management 2.0 membership community. Many of you here are members already, which is awesome. Ursula and Jenny are one of our newest members, so it's great that you joined this event. If you're not a member yet, you are at least on our waiting list for joining very early next year. So stay tuned. Doors will reopen in the first week of January, and that will be the moment for you to apply and officially join us in the community and be a part of this awesome space where we learn together and become better leaders together. But you came here today to hear from Oliver, not from me, so I'm going to soon pass the mic to him and let him introduce himself. But before, I wanted to explain what's going to happen. So on our agenda, we have there's two parts to our agenda. The first one is this case study webinar. For the first 35 minutes, Oliver will tell us his story and you'll have the chance to ask questions. So if during Oliver's presentation you have questions, please add them to the chat. I will be making notes of them. And then if it makes sense, I might interrupt and ask the question right away. If not, I will save them to the end. Then after the case study webinar, we move to another room for the after-hour session, because this is a community exclusive event. And this is where we continue talking about this topic, about this case study, and we reflect together how to apply that to your specific case. Hopefully you'll get super inspired by many ideas here, by Oliver's experiments, and the case study webinar, or the after-hour session, is a chance for us to continue exploring and reflecting what that means to you specifically. So that's all. I'm going to stop sharing my screen and invite Oliver to take the mic and delight us with his stories.
Thank you very much. So hi. My name is Oliver Monnecke, and I'm a Management 3.0 facilitator from Germany, and I help leaders on the way to becoming the leaders they want to be. So my native language is German, and I did not give a talk in English for some time, and sometimes I miss a few words, but I'm confident we will have a great time here. And I try to speak slowly and clearly. Some words about me. First of all, as a software developer, I had my first experience with agility in 2003, but the development became less and less fun for me. I found out that I was good with people and focused more on coaching employees and developing the organization further. Usually you found me in the back of the room, and now and then you can see me talking about topics like imposter syndrome and high sensitivity. For about 10 years, I've been helping companies, teams, and individuals on their way. And I've seen many big companies, and here you can see an excerpt. And what's very important, for 2.5 weeks, I'm also a proud dad of 2 cats. But today, I guess I will focus on Rewe Digital and our experiences with some Management 3.0 practices. So, Rewe Digital. First of all, the Rewe Group, with an annual turnover of $40 billion, almost went bankrupt because it could no longer keep up with market developments. Rewe Digital was founded as a subsidiary. The goal was to learn how to innovate and react quickly to the market. The main product, the grocery delivery service, was born. It started with 10 employees. The company now has reached around 2,200 employees. It relies on some agile and lean stuff like Kanban, Scrum, extreme programming, flight level model by Klaus Leopold, and of course, management 3.0 practices in a complex and scaled environment. Today, I would like to talk about 3 challenges that we have encountered along the way. So challenge number 1, how to show appreciation. We have already seen that Rewe Digital has grown very quickly to a size where you are no longer a small family, where everyone knows each other. And when I accompanied the company, there were only about 500 to 900 employees. But even here, not all the faces were familiar, especially not the names. And there's a number called Dunbar's number, which says that at 150 relationships between people, we have reached a limit. We can no longer form relationships with individual people. And since the focus was very much on business agility on the one hand, we wanted to bring humanity back to the foreground. And suddenly there were remote teams, both in Germany and in Bulgaria. And the question was, how can we involve these people? So first of all, we created little mailboxes out of shoe boxes and placed them in our team rooms and next to a stack of kudo cards and some pens. Now everyone could just take a card and thank someone. Afterwards, in a small ceremony, for example, in the retrospective, the box was emptied and everyone could take their own kudo card. Okay, but how can we foster this appreciation outside of the teams? We placed more mailboxes in each kitchen and meeting room, which we painted and covered with pictures. We also put kudo cards with pens here. And every 2 to 3 weeks, all employees came together for a town hall meeting. Just before the start of this meeting, we emptied these boxes and collected all the cards. Then at the end of the town hall meeting, we read the cards in public on stage and asked the recipients to come forward to get the card. Most were very proud to have received this recognition in front of everyone. But some felt uncomfortable because they didn't like being in the center of attention. So again, people were in the forefront and we kept getting to know new people and their names. When the first remote teams showed up, it was a challenge to get these teams involved too. But the employees got creative and cards were simply photographed or slid into the scanner and then emailed. So the recipient then had the option to print his own card. This had created team spaces where many employees proudly collected their cards and taped them to the monitor, for example. With remote teams, chat tools are becoming increasingly important. And an extra channel was then created, especially for the kudo cards, where they could be shared and everyone could quickly send a card on their own. So, however, a developer came up with the idea of creating a chat bot, where all you have to do is enter a name and a kudo card is automatically created and sent to the person. And so this special feeling got lost. When people are in my heart and I want to tell them this, I take the time to give them a special treat and not an automation. So what did we learn? The easier it is to simply pick up a card and write something, the more likely it is that the offer will be accepted. Cut cards to size and keep filling them. There are also always a few pens that you don't have to search for. When you imagine an employee being thanked in front of hundreds of other employees, and they're receiving their kudo card while everyone in the room is clapping. That's something that does something to the employee. And that's a very special feeling. But be careful, some people are really uncomfortable being in the center of attention. They like being in the back of the room. And knowing this, it's better to give them the card in a one-on-one conversation after the meeting. And yeah, appreciation is something very human. And even if we digitize and automate a lot, should always come from your heart. So take your time, and you do not use automation or even chatbots.
Oliver, can I interject with a question?
Yeah,
Yes?
yes, of course. Yeah.
Jenny is asking, are the kudo cards a permanent thing, or was it done for a specific period? And the second follow-up question is, do they start to lose their effect?
It just started as an experiment to see how valuable is it for the people. And if it's valuable for the people, they will use it for a long time. So it was not for a specific period, it was just always. And they we had one employee where the effect was lost, because he got 100 cards at one time.
Wow.
Yeah. How is it called?
If you want to say it in German, I know there's a few German people here that could try to translate.
Ein Streich spielen.
I need support here.
Like getting tricked.
Yeah.
Or
and
pranking someone.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
So it was a prank, and his desktop was full of these cards, and that was not a good feeling for him, and so he never used kudo cards again.
Wow. Okay. That was not very nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
And this was like a one-time thing, or did you see like people abusing the system? That's a question we get sometimes about kudo cards, or was that just a side effect worth living through?
That was just one situation. We only had this one situation, and people love it. They just use it and love it and give away. And you have a good feeling if you are doing something great and good for somebody else, and he says thank you. And that's what people love.
Yeah. I was also curious about the chatbot. So you said that it didn't work so well because it was digital, so how did the chatbot work? So was the chat giving you the kudo, or someone else would prompt it? How did that work?
Yeah, you had a command /kudo, and then you had the parameter. The only parameter was the name of the receiver. So if I say /kudo Nadine was alerted. He was invited into the channel, and the chatbot created a random kudo card for Nadine.
So that you couldn't insert a custom message. It was just the name.
Yeah, the message was randomly.
Okay. Okay. So yeah, I see why that didn't feel as special as an actual kudo card, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Kudo cards, making kudo cards transparent in remote situations is very, very hard. In this channel, everyone could see these kudo cards that were sent. So I take a picture, I load it into the channel. Everyone can see, okay, Nadine got a a cool card from Oliver. That's fine. But yeah, if you are at home, you have many options. For example, my cool cards are on the left of my monitor, of my display, but you can also put them behind you so they are transparent again.
Mm. And so before we move on to the next experiment, just to make it clear, so after the chatbot that didn't work so well, you started encouraging people to actually write the Kudo card and send a picture or a scan to the others.
Yes.
Right? Yeah.
I often compare it. I like playing computer games. And if you are playing a game and you have won a game and 50 people write in the chat GG, that's short for good game. My question is, okay, if they really think this was a good game, why don't they take the time to write an individual message? I have no idea. It's always GG. That's not very personal for me.
Yes. All right. Thank you, Oliver. So I'm going to let you continue and tell us about the next experiment.
Yeah, the next experiment, next challenge. Create environments where people are motivated. We have all understood by now that we should not motivate people, but create environments in which they are motivated. But how do we find out what people need, what motivates them, and what drives them? To do this, we use the movie motivators and find out what drives individuals. Okay, individuals, but what about teams? And what does an entire team to be motivated? How does that help us to decide if a potential new team member is a good fit? Can we provide the environment the candidate needs? And how do we deal with diversity in motivators? So, for example, what does it mean if status is not an important motivator on the team, but is important for a candidate? That inappropriate or maybe even a compliment? So how did we proceed? First of all, we explained the movie motivators to each individual team member and had them lay out. Then in a team session, they presented their own motivators. And then you can see and you can feel this creates a very special atmosphere in the room and promotes empathy among the team members. And now a spider web diagram with the chamfer's motivators is created. And the most important 5 motivators are drawn in. So I've brought 2 pictures of what this might look like, so you have an idea. And this now gives us the opportunity to look at what our environment actually looks like. What do we already have, but also what are we missing as a team? Okay, at Rewe Digital, however, teams are not very constant. There were always individual members changing the team, leaving the company, or new ones being hired. But when a new candidate comes to talk to us, we do the movie motivators exercise with them here as well. We then look at our diagram and talk to the person about what we can offer in our environment, what we can't offer, but also what we could do to ensure that a potential new team member is sustainably motivated with us. So what did we learn? You need an environment where people trust each other so they can open up and talk not only about the motivators, but also their thoughts, their needs, and their feelings. This exercise creates a unique atmosphere and space full of empathy is created. But people also make themselves vulnerable and need to know that we are only using this information to help them develop even further. The insights up to this point have been the base for many conversations in the company about how we can improve even further and what we can do to have motivated employees in the long term. And yeah, candidates, sometimes we had candidates who cared about motivators other than the team. So this helped us to reflect again on once again, that helped us to reflect again on whether we could still serve these motivators. So we are a diverse team. So why not when it comes to motivation? Is that possibly complementary to our team? Or do we have predictable conflicts here that we should avoid? The teams have all decided that diversity in motivators is more likely to lead to risk, and that would lead to too many differences. And so we haven't always managed to create this safe environment in interviews. So applicants try to put the motivators in the way they thought it would be right. They didn't understand that there was no right or wrong, and that we only wanted the best for both the candidate and the team. But in later conversations or lunch together, we very quickly found out if there was a discrepancy between what was said and what the candidate thought. So that was the second challenge.
And Oliver, yeah, I have a question, and please, everyone, add the questions to the chat because I would love to ask them to Oliver. I'm wondering about what you said regarding diversity and motivation. So, in the end, did you mostly decide to find people who seemed to have, because as you said, that might not be super clear, seem to have similar motivations to prioritize comfort, or were you able to also hire people that seem to have different motivations to increase diversity? Yeah, how did you work with that balance?
In another company, not at Rewe Digital, I saw an experiment where this diversity was in a team, and there were strange effects. You do not always have the environment to motivate all people at once, and so on. When you have the environment to motivate maybe half of the team, the other half is not motivated, but the people motivated, the employees, felt responsible to motivate the other half of the team.
And was it clear that motivation divide was happening? Was that a conversation of something like, so for this project, let's say we are prioritizing these types of motivations, maybe for the next we'll do something different? Was that clear, or it just happened?
I'm not sure if I get your question.
So I'm wondering, so you said that in this other company, there were certain moments where half of the team was motivated, or half of a team was motivated and another one not so much. Was this clear to everyone that there was a divide there? And was this divide intentional for that specific moment? That's my question.
It was transparent to the whole team who is motivated by which motivator. And they decided on their own. They wanted a good mix. So that was their own decision.
Okay, interesting. Andrew asked a question. What should I do if somebody has an important motivator or motivators and can't utilize it in the current environment? Any ideas?
Utilize it in current environment. Does it mean it is missing in the current environment? Or what does it mean?
I think so, yes. But Andrew, if you want to unmute and
yes.
clarify.
For example, I have like freedom, and in company it doesn't allow to work remotely, and for him it's vital. What should do in this case?
That's a tough question. I have an experience on my own. My leader at Rewe Digital did the movie motivators with me in a one-on-one conversation, and we found out that acceptance is very important for me, but it's not enough in this environment I'm in. So what he was trying to do, but please don't do that. What he was trying to do was coaching. So acceptance is not important for me anymore. And that was not a good decision to do that. I was very unhappy. I felt manipulated. And so I decided to leave the company because I couldn't find an environment where acceptance was as high as I needed. If you have employees that they are not motivated in the environment, what you can do is try to change the environment or find new environments. For example, find another team, or find another department. But if you can't create or find an environment where the people are motivated, I guess I have to find another environment in another company.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for your question, Andrew. And yeah, that didn't sound very nice, because I think that specifically with the motivator of acceptance, I also have that motivator. That's why I'm saying that. Like, the biggest thing is to be accepted, right? Like you are. And so feeling like people are trying to change you, it's basically the opposite of that. And so, yeah, it's quite interesting example. Thank you, Oliver, for sharing that as well. All right. So last but not least, tell us about the next challenge.
Hey, yeah. New leaders want to clarify responsibilities. This is the third, but not the last challenge at Rewe Digital. For me, it was one of the toughest. In the beginning, there was one leader for about 200 developers. The span was so large that so-called people managers were created. They were not managers or leaders, but were to be understood as coaches who took care of the concerns of the individual developers. The leader changed, and his successor felt that not enough attention was being paid to technical issues, and that an unhealthy balance of business and technical topics had developed. To restore this balance, it was decided that the people managers should focus purely on organizational issues, such as recruiting, contract adjustments, other administrative activities of the developers. And a new hierarchy level was created, and new leaders were appointed. They were called engineering managers. They received their leadership training by being put into a leadership bootcamp for a week. And there they were told to use the delegation board from the Management 3.0 to clarify responsibilities with their employees. So most of the new leaders found a facilitator, went into sessions with the employees. There was a separate session per team, and then they talked, discussed, and decided together. However, one new leader with 20 employees chose to have a session with all employees from 4 different teams at the same time to save time. Within the workshop, delegation levels were then negotiated, but again, separated by team. So for example, the topic was attend a paid training. Each individual developer choose their appropriate level for himself as well as a leader. The first discussion took place with the manager and the developers from the first team. They disagreed and exchanged arguments, and after the third round, they still disagreed, but the engineering manager made a decision for the developers from this team. Now it was time to move on to the second team. Because of discussion from the first team, the developers here suddenly started to use some tactics. And at the end of this paid training topic, there was a high level of dissatisfaction. On one hand, this round had lasted for about one and a half hour. And on the other hand, some teams had been given more free space than others. And though a culture of incomprehension and jealousy arose in some cases. And the workshop was scheduled for 3 hours, but after 4 hours, we stopped and we still did not finish. What did we learn? I must confess, this was one of my most painful workshops to facilitate. Every team is different and needs individual support. So focus only on one team at a time. Give the team the attention that it deserves, see how it responds and learn from it. If you have a large team, perhaps the representatives will be enough. And of course, listen to and benefit from the experience of your facilitator. I'm already at the end of my presentation. And
we have a question. We have a question.
Yeah.
So Mark is asking, how did you manage to empower the new leaders to get used to their new role? Was something like mentorship implemented or frequently feedback-driven coaching?
No. No. These leaders have never been leaders before. They were sent into this bootcamp for a week, and then the next leader said, okay, and now you are at the teams, at the developers, and you learn how to do it. They did not have coaching, they did not have mentoring, they had nothing. Because we agile coaches had a good relationship with these engineering managers, we were able to help them find orientation, maybe even coaching or mentoring to get a good start and help them to, how to handle people. How to handle people sounds strange. How to help people.
Yeah, do you think that having a more formal coaching or mentoring process would have benefited in that case? Or do you think having the support of the agile coaches in a more informal way was enough?
We as agile coaches have given the recommendation to coaching or mentoring, something like that. But the new leader, as the leader of the engineering managers, was not willing to give them the help they
Mm.
would have had.
Okay. So more questions for Oliver, please let us know. I have to say that that workshop sounds very painful as a facilitator myself. And was there any follow-up in terms of focusing on one team at a time? What happened after that?
I have no idea. That was the last workshop I did for this company. And maybe you can feel it's an emotional topic for me, and that was also the topic why I left the company. As well, the engineering managers, the new hierarchy, the new leader. Yeah.
Okay. More questions for Oliver. Feel free to unmute if you have a burning question. Actually, there's one in the chat, so don't unmute now. Mark said, I think it's very important for those people to reflect on their own role. For it's very uncertain how your team sees you in your new role. Yes, as a new leader. How did they get feedback from the teams in their leadership?
How did they get feedback? There are two ways to get feedback. On the one hand, once a year was a huge feedback loop where people have to catch feedback from other employees you're working with. And on the other hand, there have been many one-on-one discussions, conversations between engineering managers and developers. So there was a point where to give feedback.
Okay, so they went once with their team members, and that was a space for receiving feedback as well. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And Farah is asking, was there an application process, or how did the new roles person get selected? And yeah, I'm assuming you're talking about Farah, about the leaders, the new leaders. You can tell us on
exactly.
The chat. Yeah, perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, there was an application process. The new leaders have all been software developers on their own at Rewe Digital, and they at first they had to write a text with a motivation why they want to be the engineering managers, what makes them special, and yeah, then there was an interview with selected people from the company, in which the new candidate was asked about their background, how to what is the vision of this candidate, and so on. And maybe he has even gained some experience in other companies, how to lead people. And yeah, the team who did the interview was consisted of some people from HR, an agile coach, of course the leader of the leaders, and they selected the new engineering manager.
Okay, so there was a selection process, but it was internal, not external.
Yeah.
Cool. Great. So I'm going to wait for like 5 seconds for another question on the chat. If not, I will move on to the closing of this part of our session. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. No question. There will be more chance for more questions in the after-hour session, if you're a member. And before we go, let me remind everyone of what's coming next in the community. So to kickstart 2023, we have on the first week, we have a Leadership Stories Lean Coffee. And this is a chance for us to bring our challenges, our stories, and things that we would like to share with the community, ask for help, etc. So this is a very open format. You can add your topics, your suggestions for topics to the Miro board that you will find on the community platform. Just go to upcoming events, everything is there. Then on the 10th, we have a practice session, and it's not about the change management game. I just saw it's there. I'm still looking for volunteers. So if you would like to try out a practice that you haven't tried yet with your teams, or that you have tried, but it might have not gone so well, or it went super well and you want to tell us how you did it, let us know, and please come and volunteer to host this session. And right now we will move into the after hours session. So for everyone else that will not join, it's been a pleasure to have you here. Oliver, a huge thank you for sharing your story today. And I hope to see everyone next month. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Oliver.
Thank you. All right, so I'm going to move to the other Zoom link. Oliver, see you there?
Yeah.
Cool. See you in a bit.